Welcome to today's Global Connections program. I'm Bill Miller. What is the Peacemaker Corps Association? What is the Peacemaker Corps doing to help youth around the world to learn more about educational programs dealing with tolerance and peace? We'll be back in just a moment to talk about these and other important issues. Welcome back to our program. Today we're taking a look at youth and why it's important for youth to focus attention on peace and tolerance. My guest today is going to bring us up to date on some very interesting programs that they're operating. My guest today is Carole Krechman. Carole Krechman is the co-founder and CEO of CV Studios Entertainment. Carole Krechman is also the chairman, founder, and president of the Peacemaker Corps Association. Carole Krechman, welcome to today's Global Connections program.
Thank you, Mr. Miller. I appreciate being here today.
Just call me Bill. Thank you. I appreciate you being
Bill.
here. Let's start off with the Peacemaker Corps. What exactly is it? When was it formed? Why was it formed? What do you do?
Peacemaker Corps Association is an NGO here at the United Nations and currently with ECOSOC status. I've been a volunteer running NGOs since 1988 here at the UN, so kind of my 26th anniversary this year. And the Peacemaker Corps was part of the Friends of the United Nations, which I ran during the 50th anniversary. And when that was over and Kofi Annan became Secretary General here, his first speech, or one of his early speeches to the General Assembly, he talked about a decade of peace and tolerance. And we do know that the culture of peace doctrine was voted and adopted by the General Assembly earlier in the 90s. And that is, all member states voted for it. And the culture of peace doctrine really talks about creating a peace culture in this world. So when I heard him speak at the GA that day, I said to the board of the Friends of the United Nations, we really should take our leader's word, and that's what we should focus on under my administration. And that was in the mid-90s. So by the end of that decade, we had created a few things. First, we had created a way to celebrate folks who are doing work in the tolerance space, like Maurice Deeds of the Southern Poverty Law Center, Waxman of ADL, Alana Morissette, who sings about peace. And so we created an award called the UN Tolerance Award. And it's been given since the mid-90s. Even Gorbachev received it. But for me, it wasn't good enough to do what I wanted to do. I wanted to reach the youth and give them a voice. Nobody thinks about it, but in the world that we live in, which is now 35 million refugees that are because of the wars that are happening, the youth, women and children, are the first victims and the biggest victims of violence. Whether they're in a refugee camp or they're in a revolution or they're being, dealt with like bullies in their own family lives. So I wanted to reach them.
Exactly. And they are certainly, women and children are the ones who bear the brunt of these civil wars. It used to be the armies bore the brunt of it, but not today. The situation has changed. Let's talk a little bit about how you outreach. How do you reach the youth of the world to focus on really important issues such as peace, conflict resolution, bullying? This is a topic that's really coming into vogue. We didn't hear much about it maybe 5-10 years ago. We're hearing a lot more about it today. But how do you reach out to them? Do you do workshops? You have special events, I know, things like that. But are one or two examples of how you reach out and get their opinions and get them brought in to access your educational materials?
Well, the first thing we did was we created a curriculum, and we were honored and very excited that President Clinton, under his Welfare to Work program, funded what he thought the Peacemaker Corps could be his Peace Corps. And so the workshops were created with academics and folks who worked in that community. And they were run during the early part of this century across our country and in many places in the world. And there are day-and-a-half workshops, and we partnered with the mall owners around the world so that the youth came to the malls and out of their own neighborhoods. And we dealt with sort of a interactive, fun therapy session where we spent a day-and-a-half in intensive conversation, listening. Listening is important. Most kids don't know how to listen. So we did all those little funny things, that telephone game when you whisper in one ear and then it turns out to be something totally different when you get all said and done. And then the graduation ceremonies for these kids were held in the center court of the malls where the local television, local media covered. So all of a sudden they had a voice. And watching these young people gain their voice was amazing.
Exactly. And now if our viewers would like more information, they can go to www.peacemakercorps.org and get a lot more information about what we're talking about today. There's a program that you operate, it's Peace in the Streets. What is that program? What is it about?
Well, Peace in the Street was something we decided to do in 2012 when I visited and was part of the first forum for the culture of peace at the General Assembly. And that was after all those years of the entire General Assembly voting for the doctrine. This was like 14 years later we had the first forum. And thanks to Ambassador Chowdhury, who encouraged the then sitting president of the General Assembly, they did the forum. And now every year at the second Friday of September, right before the new GA gets set. And at that time I looked around at all the NGOs and all the member states and all the people talking about peacemaking. I thought, well, it's in the streets where the violence is. Mm-hmm. All these revolutions, all this upheaval, all the have-nots wanting to be haves. So I said, why don't we create a song called Peace in the Street? So it's a peace rap. So then the kids like music. It's a way to get to them. And that was the beginning of this festival that we've created for filmmakers of all from ages 18 to 0. We have 3 categories, 8 and under, 9 and 13, and 14 and 18 will send us videos through our website, and the winners will be announced at this year's forum, I believe in September here at the UN.
Very good. Now the Peacemaker Corps, you don't operate in isolation, obviously. You've touched upon a few of your partners, but who are some of your major partners at the United Nations, also in the private sector? I know you're a private sector person, in the private sector and even with governments, for example. But who are some of your key players? Not all of them, we wouldn't have time to go through them all,
right, we've done
but
a
just
lot.
hit a couple of them.
Well, we work with the Sports and Youth Organization here at the UN. We have been privileged to work with UNICEF's Voices of Youth, which reaches 3,500 unique visitors on a daily basis. And then on the private side, we've got Clear Channel, MTV, Foundation for the Culture of Peace with Federico Mayor in Madrid, who used to be the Deputy Secretary of UNESCO and was part of the issue of getting that Culture of Peace Forum doctrine signed, and many others that we're putting together for this Peace in the Street Festival and for the work that we do.
I remember looking at your bio, and I think it was mentioned in there something with the U.S. Housing and Urban Development, HUD department. What type of interactions did you have with them?
Yeah, HUD was, I'm sorry that I stepped on you, but
no, please, go ahead.
HUD is very exciting for me because they reached all the kids that live in public housing, and those are the kids that we wanted to reach originally. Because what we thought was, if we could get young people who live in American public housing, who live in armed conflict, then they could become the mentors for the youth in refugee camps around the world and other youth who are suffering from bullies and other, it could be government bullies or their own family bullies. And so HUD was the distributor of our program around, and we would have continued if it hadn't been for the wars that happened in this last decade.
Exactly. Now, the United Nations in 2000 developed the Millennium Development Goals, 8 logical, practical goals to reduce abject poverty by 50% by 2015, to promote primary school education, universal primary school education, to promote gender equality, empower women. Do you focus on all 8 of those Millennium Development Goals when you're doing your planning, or are there certain ones that you highlight perhaps a little more than others, or how do you factor them in to when you're talking about developing programs?
Well, if you think about eliminating poverty, which is the number 1 that you mentioned and really important, you can't eliminate poverty if there's violence. Nobody invests in a place where there's war, whether it's in the street of America or in Libya, or you just aren't motivated to develop business if there's violence going on. So that's number 1. To eliminate poverty in this world, we have to stop the violence. And I don't mean just the wars, the big ones, but the wars that happened in your home, the wars that happened on the street, the ones that you can control yourself. That's what we're trying to teach young people. They do have a voice. And if they learn how to live life without violence, use words. Words are, we were given, God gave us the wonderful thing of words. We speak. That's what we do first. And isn't that what the UN does? I mean, we're here in an era, in this building where diplomacy is what happens. If we didn't have the UN, these 190 countries would never talk to one another. So I've been trying to teach young people they can make a difference in their lives, therefore a difference in the world. And the Millennium Goals are that, if they learn to use words instead of violence to solve their problems.
Well, you're watching Global Connections Television, which is an independently produced program. The opinions expressed on Global Connections are solely those of the moderator and his guest. Today, we're taking a look at a very interesting organization that's working with youth around the world to focus attention on peace and also how they can really become more tolerant of one another and move into the 21st century. My guest today is an expert in this area. My guest today is Carole Krechman. Carole Krechman is the chairman, founder, and president of the Peacemaker Corps Association. Carole, we're talking about youth. What has been the reaction? I know you deal with a lot of young people. Well, you deal with a lot of people, but young people in many areas of the world. What overall has been the reaction? Do you find that so often we hear that youth really don't care about the issues of the day. They don't care about poverty. They don't care about climate change. They don't care about this, that, or the other. But have you found that not to be the case, that they do care about these issues and that they're eager and interested in learning more about how we can develop a more peaceful world and a more productive world, and one where we do have more tolerance for all of the diversity of opinion in this very complicated mosaic of a world we live in?
You know, we discuss media, and media is very important. I do believe that youth is interested. I also believe that they think that we're not interested in them, that there's like this disconnect. The media needs to look at new ways to reach young people. We have social media, we have websites, we have mobile, we have all kinds of ways now to reach millions and millions and millions of people in an instant. And I do believe that this need to communicate, which we see with young people through video, through Twitters, with all the, is sort of inherent in your soul. So to talk about how to make this world a more peaceful place, I think they're very interested. I think they're concerned about climate change. I think they're concerned about the future. But I think in a lot of they just don't think that there isn't anything they can do. You know, they're like they kind of feel like powerless because you turn on the television, you see somebody our age talking to them. Well, that's not going to get it. It's got to be them talking to them. It's got to be kids talking to kids, people to people of that. And that's what we're trying to develop. And that's not easy to develop a grassroots program, but we've got tremendous support. At the DPI conference a few years ago, I brought two wonderful things. We were part of the session, the Peacemaker Corps. So Global Grover, one of the Muppets who travels the world, was there because we honored Sesame Workshop for the Art of Making Peace Award. But we also brought 3 graduates from the Peacemaker program, 3 diverse, 2 guys and a gal, 3 diverse people. And they told their story about how the program changed the way they thought about themselves in life and what happened and why they went into the program. And I will tell you, Bill, when the program, when that panel was over, there were 500 people at least in the room from NGOs in member states. They rushed the stage like these kids were rock stars. There was crying, there was laughing, and I thought to myself, this is it. We need to hear from them. This organization, the UN, needs to hear from them, because we're the governors of the world, and they're going to inherit what we're doing. And they should have a voice.
They are the leaders of tomorrow. Now, I mentioned in the opening you're involved with CV Entertainment. And how do you bring CV Entertainment into this and to help it become a vehicle to get out your message and also to work on the programs and the projects that we've been talking about up to this point?
Well, we're a television production company in California. And we're unique because we have all different platforms that are available for us to broadcast. We have PBS, Dish, mobile, web, everything that's available we broadcast on. And we also focus on more of documentaries. We try to give information, whether it's for a particular location or for filmmakers. We're really focused on young people learning how to make movies and films and short videos that tell their story or tell a story. So we feel that we're very capable of putting on these festivals because that's our business. We know how to deal with short-form content in this sort of attention deficit world we live in. You know, we want everything, we want it now, and we want it short. But so that's what we do at CV Studios, and we're growing. We do documentaries and try to inform people in a fun way about things that are important in this world.
Mm-hmm. Now, earlier we talked about Peace in the Street, and we're going to flip up a website, PSGFF.com.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit more about that.
And by the way, hashtag PSGFF
hashtag.
for the young people who's Twitter and Pinterest and all that. This is the festival that will go on every year, where we call for videos under 3 minutes for 3 different age categories under 18. So 8 and under, 9 and to 13, and 14 to 18. And we will select 12 winners from all over the world, bring them to the forum this year, the Culture of Peace Forum, in September here at the UN. They'll participate in the forum and show their videos, and then the winners will be announced in the evening. And this will happen every year. Every year we will run this festival, year after year. And then the archives of these videos will turn into little shows and put them on PBS and put them on Dish. And again, a platform for young people to tell us what they're thinking. That's what Peace in the Street is all about. And the mayors of the world, Federico Mayor, who's now the president of the Foundation for Culture of Peace, his friend is mayor of Barcelona. And this year he's president of the International Mayors Association. And he said, oh, every mayor in the world knows what Peace in the Street's all about, because we've had violence in the street for the last 2 years.
Exactly. Now, can young people sign up for this, or how do they can go to your website, find out, they go to psgff.com, get more information on it? But
they can, yes, they can sign up. It's free.
Great. Okay.
And now everybody that I know in the world, I know there's 60 million smartphones in Africa, has access to an iPad, a tablet, a mobile device. You can make a film. We're not looking for filmmakers, we're looking for stories. So it isn't the quality of what they do, it's what they're saying that's important to us. And we have an incredible jury that we put together with Ambassador Chowdhury as the chair, an international jury of all different kinds. And they've volunteered their time to look at these videos and select what they think are the right ones. And then we're looking to develop eventually a public voting system for everybody to weigh in on the last finals, maybe the last 50.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Now, you've done some very interesting projects, and we just touched the tip of the iceberg today in all probability. What do you see looming on the horizon? What would you like to do in the future that maybe you've not had a chance to do up to this point, and with whom would you like to do it? How would you like to get other people involved in some very creative activities to reach out to the youth and other key players in this world?
I guess my passion has been to really get more youth involved in the UN. I know 2 years ago NGOs were given the opportunity to have a youth person on a pass, and a grounds pass, under 25. But I would love to see every member state have at least one member of their team here be under 25. I think that's a way to get the youth voice heard here at the UN. And I know that's a lot of bureaucracy here to change, but that if this piece in the street and the voices we'll hear from kids all over the world will do anything other than helping us and help them, maybe would help the UN to open their doors a little more to youth and really make them a part of the decision making here.
And of course, that seems to be something that the UN is moving towards. The Secretary General Ban Ki-moon has his youth envoy, which is a new position at the United Nations. Again, an attempt to reach out to young people. You see that countries are putting up folks who are youth envoys here. The United Nations Association of the USA, for example, in the United States, has a youth envoy that attends meetings at the United Nations, again with that goal in mind, to try to reach out and to bring people in. Earlier you mentioned the media. You're involved very deeply in the media, and as you look at it, you've seen the evolution of the media over the past several years. How do you see the media covering these international issues? Do you think that the media has a fixation maybe with the Security Council, with peacekeeping, with the General Assembly, with friction at the UN wherever the sparks are flying, as opposed to maybe some of the other 80% of the humanitarian programs, such as you were talking about earlier with the UN High Commission for Refugees, dealing with 35 million refugees a year, or the World Health Organization working with Rotary International to eliminate polio and other childhood diseases. But there's that 20% of, I guess, what you'd call the political part of the UN, and the 80% more so devoted to humanitarian activities. But how do you see the media covering that, and how maybe should the media, as far as getting out a more balanced picture about the United Nations? The UN is not a perfect organization, but it's certainly a necessary, indispensable organization that we need as we move into the future. But how can the media give a more balanced view, if indeed you think that's the case?
No, I totally agree with you, but the traditional media is always so sensationalism. They're looking for trouble. They only care about trouble. Seems like they think that the audience only listens to trouble. I think that we need to move into blogging, texting, social media, other ways to get this information out. I've been here for 26 years. And I've talked to people all over the world, and they really don't understand what goes on in here at the headquarters here and in Geneva. The dedicated people who work here, who have a goal to make this world a better place. So, the media is always into the wars, the sensation, the arguments, the gossip. I think we have to take it like everything else and put it in our own hands and write directly to the people. And that's all this new stuff that's happening, which I know everybody hears about, but it's really important because it's the people's voice.
Now, in 2008, you won a very prestigious award, the 2008 Purpose Prize Fellowship Award. What exactly was that, and with which organization or with whom were you working to get that award?
Well, the organization's called Civic Ventures, and then they changed their name now to Encore.org, and Encore is part of ARP. And ARP deals with folks that are over
AARP.
AARP deals with people who are over 55 years old. So they decided that there were so many of us who were over 55 who were doing something to make the world a better place, but that being lost in the elderly shuffle that was happening, whatever, ageism. So they created this award, and there are like 350 so of us around the world who have been given this honor. And we meet on occasion. We have our own international, internet kind of communication, and the amount of variety of what elderly people are doing. I don't know.
Mature,
whatever
right.
we call ourselves, over 55. It's pretty remarkable, and I'm very privileged to have been selected because of the work that I've been doing here at the UN.
Exactly. And the work that you're doing is so important, and it's something that we need to focus upon and really get more people involved, as you mentioned earlier, and do a better outreach, greater outreach to young people, but also everyone from 6 to 60 or beyond in both directions, because we all have a role to play, and it's very important that we get involved in these activities, because we're dealing with such major issues like climate change. We're dealing with problems of refugees. We're dealing with health issues. We're just on across the board, and that no one person can deal with them, no one group of nations, but it takes a setting under the roof of the United Nations to bring the players of the world together. But Carole Krechman, I want to thank you so very much for bringing us up to date on the Peacemakers program and what you're doing, and it's a very important program, and thank you so very much for a very interesting and a very informative program.
Well, thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate it, and I appreciate the fact that we have brought to the UN all these outside organizations that are helping us.
Thank you. I'm Bill Miller. Thank you for joining us on today's Global Connections program.